Just like all languages, sign language has different accents based on country, age, ethnicity, and whether the person is deaf or not. A single teaspoon of water has 8 times more atoms than there are teaspoons full of water in the Atlantic Ocean. The Netherlands was the first country to legalize same-sex marriage, which was in 2001. Being hungry causes serotonin levels to drop, causing a whirlwind of uncontrollable emotions, including anxiety, stress, and anger. Carl Gugasian is serving 17 years in jail after robbing 50 banks over a 30-year period, stealing $2 million. In a study conducted by the Bay State Medical Center in Springfield, approximately 58% of people experience phantom vibration syndrome, a sensory hallucination where you mistakenly think your phone is buzzing in your pocket. If New York City was its own country and the NIPT was its army, it would be the 20th best-funded army in the world, just behind Greece and ahead of North Korea. Chaology is the study of chaos or chaos theory. There are 100 to 400 billion stars in the Milky Way and more than 100 billion galaxies in the universe. A group of lemurs is called a conspiracy. The largest cemetery in the world is the Wadi al-Salam Cemetery, located in Iraq. It's 2 miles 6 km squared and is so big that it's unknown how many bodies are in there. It's estimated to be in the millions, and 500,000 more get added each year. Benjamin Franklin wasn't trusted to write the U.S. Declaration of Independence because it was feared he would conceal a joke in it. The longest human jump is further than the longest horse jump. In the 1968 Olympics, the world record was set at 8.9 meters, while the record for a horse is 8.4 meters 28 feet. An employee at Pixar accidentally deleted a sequence of Toy Story 2 during production. It would have taken a year to remake what was gone, but luckily another employee had the whole thing backed up on a personal computer. Putting dry tea bags in smelly shoes or gym bags is an easy and quick way to absorb any unpleasant odors. The hippocampus, which is responsible for memory in women's brains, is larger than the hippocampus in men. Overmorrow is a word that means the day after tomorrow. The Indonesian Ministry of Marine Affairs and Fisheries determined that a single manta ray, if caught and killed, is worth anywhere from 4500. They also determined, however, that if kept alive, they're worth up to $1 million in tourism revenue. So they created the largest manta ray sanctuary in the world. More than half of the world's population is under the age of 30. The word Sahara in Arabic means desert, so desert in Arabic. It also once snowed in the Sahara back in 1979. Intel employs a futurist named Brian David Johnson, whose job it is to determine what life would be like to live 10 to 15 years in the future. The sun and the moon appear to be the same size in our sky because of the amazing coincidence that the moon is 400 times smaller, but also 400 times closer. England's Big Ben is actually leaning to the northwest by 0.6 degrees, putting it out of alignment at its highest point by 1.6 feet. It was discovered when Transport for London commissioned a report that the London clay on which the tower was built on is drying out, causing the lean. Soviet diplomat Vyacheslav Molotov is thought to be the only man to ever shake hands with Stalin, Lenin, Hitler, Himmler, Goering, Roosevelt, and Churchill, and is also the inspiration behind the term Molotov cocktail. In the average lifetime, a person will walk the equivalent of 5 times around the equator. In 1999, a woman named Penny Brown saved a little boy, Kevin Stefan's life by giving him CPR after he was hit in the chest with a baseball bat. However, just 7 years later, he ended up saving her from choking to death by giving her the Heimlich maneuver. An Iowa artist named Patrick Acton built a complete model of Hogwarts out of 602,000 matchsticks held together by almost 60 liters of wood glue. In 1905, 11-year-old Frank Epperson from the San Francisco Bay Area invented the popsicle by accident. He left his sugary soda powder that he mixed with water outside overnight, and the next morning, it was frozen. He originally named it the Epsicle, but the name was eventually changed to Popsicle. Prostitution exists among some penguins and chimpanzees. It was first reported in 1998 by Fiona Hunter, a researcher at the University of Cambridge, and Lloyd Davis of the University of Otago. They were studying the mating patterns of the Adelie penguins when they noticed that they prostitute themselves for things like stones or food. Caesar salad has nothing to do with any of the Caesars. It was first concocted in a bar in Tijuana, Mexico, in the 1920s. Crocodiles and alligators are surprisingly fast on land. Although they are rapid, they are not agile. So, if being chased by one, run in a zigzag line to lose him or her. Soon after the Japanese attacks on Pearl Harbor, Ed McMahon enlisted in the Marine Corps and entered flight training. Though unable to enter combat in WE, he flew 85 combat missions in the Korean War and earned 6 air medals. He retired in 1966 with the rank of colonel. In 2014, an animal rights activist was awarded $685,737 for the trauma she experienced after discovering that her baby's father was an undercover policeman charged with spying on her. He was with her for years, had a baby, and left when the son turned 2. Almost 25 years of no contact, and she read about him in the paper. Before the FIFA World Cup 2014 semi-final match, in which they lost 7-1 from Germany, Brazil hadn't lost a single match at a home stadium in competitive matches since 1975. Ernest Hemingway grew paranoid and talked about FBI spying on him later in life. He was treated with electroshock. It was later revealed that he was, in fact, being watched, and Edgar Hoover personally placed him under surveillance. Theaters used to have cry rooms, which were soundproof rooms at the back of theaters so mothers wouldn't disturb others with their children. In the many states in the USA, you can be charged with a DUI even if the car is parked and you're sleeping in it. Sylvester Stallone talks the way he does because of complications his mother suffered during labor. This forced her obstetricians to use 2 pairs of forceps during his birth, and misuse of these accidentally severed a nerve and caused paralysis in parts of his face. Sony, after the 2012 security breaches, changed PSN user agreement to require users to agree not to sue Sony over any future security breach. Murderers in medieval Ireland were given to the deceased's family as slaves if they failed to pay a hefty fine to buy their freedom. The family could then legally kill the murderer themselves. Syphilis had been called the French disease in Italy, Poland and Germany, the Italian disease in France, the Spanish disease by the Dutch, the Polish disease by Russians, and the Turks called it the Christian disease. Mr. Ramon Artigavesia survived the fire and sinking of a ship in 1871, leaving him emotionally scarred. About 41 years later, he was finally able to overcome his fears and nightmares and deciding to sail again, only to die in the sinking of that new ship, which was the Titanic. In the ancient Persian Empire, men used to debate ideas twice, once when sober and once when drunk, because an idea had to sound good in both states in order to be considered a good idea. Nichelle Nichols was convinced to stay on Star Trek by Martin Luther King Jr., who told her, "Don't you understand for the first time, we're seen as we should be seen. You don't have a black role, you have an equal role." The word homeboy goes back to the 1800s and was used by African Americans to refer to each other as people from back home. Cleveland Indians once had a 10-cent beer night that ended in the crowd rioting and attacking the players and umpires. Players and coaches used baseball bats to fend off the rioting fans. British physicist Alf Adams came up with the idea of the strained layer quantum well laser walking on the beach with his wife. He paused for a moment and asked her to stop talking for a moment to let him think. These lasers are now used in almost every household today in optical disc players. Harvard earns enough money on interest from its endowment that it could offer free tuition to all students and still make a profit on the interest. The Lakota people, indigenous people of North and South Dakota, have been trying to claim independence in the longest legal battle in history, more than 160 years with the United States. There is a creature with the ability to neutralize almost all poisons, even from creatures it has never encountered. One day this ability might be utilized by humans. This creature is called the opossum. Bottlenose dolphins have the longest memory among non-humans. They can recognize whistles of their mates after being separated for more than 20 years. Isaac Newton prowled the bars and taverns in seedy parts of London in disguise to gather evidence of counterfeiting. His work led to 28 convictions, one being hanged for high treason. Bicycle helmets reduce the risk for head injury by as much as 85% and reduce the risk for brain injury by as much as 88%. Every year, 27 million people in the U.S. benefit from pain relief, sedation, and unconsciousness from anesthetics. Impressionist painter Claude Monet, 184019-6, had cataracts and was almost blind by 1922. He had cataract surgery on his right eye in 1922.